My cousin recently started learning stock analysis and he was studying Vodafone Idea. He was shocked to learn that Vodafone Idea gave away 33% of its equity to the government of India. I told him that paying in equity was a common practice the world over. In fact, I drew him a parallel from Facebook's early days. In 2005, graffiti artist David Cho charged $60,000 for decorating Facebook's headquarters. Facebook offered to pay him that amount in cash or in equity. Cho took equity. So only 7 years later, in 2012, when Facebook got listed on the exchanges, Cho's equity stake had become $200 million. I would like to believe that he has sold some of that stake over the years, but if he hasn't, his stake is worth $1.4 billion today. He took one chance on the company and became a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire. But his bet could have also gone sour. What if Facebook failed? His stake would have gone down to zero and he would have basically worked for free. That is how getting paid in equity works. But what drives a company to pay in equity, and why would someone accept getting paid in equity? Now let's look at the company my cousin was studying, Vodafone Idea. The government of India owns a third of Vodafone Idea. It means that instead of paying its dues, Vodafone Idea basically gave away 33% of its stake to the government of India. But why? Let's look at the background story. Telecom companies in India have to pay a portion of their adjusted gross revenues or AGR as licensing and spectrum usage fees to the government. Back in 2005, the Department of Telecommunications and the telecom companies in India disputed the definition of adjusted gross revenues or AGR. On the one hand, the telecom department said that all the revenues of a telecom company must be considered when calculating its licensing fees. On the other hand, the telecom companies argued that non-telecom revenues must not be considered. On a side note, non-telecom revenues include dividend and interest income from investments and all other income that is non-core to telecom operations. The dispute went to court, and after 14 long years, in 2019, the Supreme Court ruled that non-telecom revenues must indeed be considered. This ruling meant that the telecom companies will have to pay all the past dues of the 14 years, the interest on those late payments, and the penalty on those late payments. All of a sudden, telecom companies became liable for tens of thousands of crores. They were given 10 years to clear the dues in phases. Vodafone Idea was the worst impacted. As of its FY24 filing, Vodafone Idea had liabilities of over 2 lakh crores and 95% of that was owed to the government of India. At the same time, it had cash and cash equivalents of less than 2,700 crores. This mounting liability and liquidity crunch had brought Vodafone Idea near death. The two promoter groups behind Vodafone Idea had also given up on it. The Aditya Birla Group was not willing to infuse fresh equity into it, and Vodafone UK was carrying it at zero value on its books. That is when, in 2021, the government of India offered some relief to telecom operators. The telecom companies got a 4-year moratorium on their dues, which meant that they could start paying their dues 4 years later. The government also gave them the option of paying interest on this delayed amount in the form of equity. Basically, the present value of the interest on the delayed amount was 16,000 crores for Vodafone Idea. Instead of paying cash, Vodafone Idea issued equity of that value to the government of India. At that time, that is in late 2021, Vodafone Idea's market cap was around 33,000 crores. So when it issued fresh equity of 16,000 crores, the government became 33% owner in the company. Now let's compare both scenarios. Facebook paid in equity because it was an early stage startup and wanted to save cash. Vodafone paid in equity because it was cash strapped and its survival was in question. It is also common for companies to pay partial salaries in stocks or stock options. It is a way of saving cash and paying their employees well. Stock options are also a way of retaining their employees. And employees like stock options because they get to participate in their employer's profits. For a company paying in equity, it seems like a problem for tomorrow. It has to pay nothing in cash today, but paying in equity means sharing ownership in the business. And down the line, when the company grows bigger, such outside shareholders could become a hindrance to strategic decision making. Isn't it true? I will leave you with that thought. Please drop your comments below and tell us what other topics you would like us to cover. That is all on Side Notes by Zerodha Varsity. Thank you.